It was one of those Tuesday evenings when everything felt perfectly ordinary. Jake had just walked up the 3 flights of stairs to his apartment, his laptop bag weighing heavy on his shoulder after another long day at the design studio. The hallway smelled like someone was cooking curry, and he could hear Mrs. Peterson's television playing too loud through her door, just like every other night. He fumbled with his keys for a moment before sliding them into the lock of apartment 4B. Home at last. Jake had been living in this small but cozy place for almost 3 years now. It wasn't much to look at from the outside, but he had made it his own. The walls were covered with his artwork, and every corner held something that made him smile. This was his sanctuary, his quiet space in a busy world. Jake kicked off his shoes by the door and tossed his keys onto the small wooden table he had bought at a garage sale last summer. He was already thinking about what to have for dinner. Maybe he would order from that Chinese place down the street again. He had their number memorized by now. He walked to his tiny kitchen and opened the refrigerator, hoping to find something more appealing than leftover pizza from the weekend. The cool air hit his face as he stared at nearly empty shelves. Definitely takeout tonight, he decided. Just as Jake was reaching for his phone to place an order, he heard something that made him freeze. It was the unmistakable sound of a key, turning in his front door lock. His heart jumped into his throat. Nobody else had a key to his apartment, nobody. Jake stood perfectly still in his kitchen, listening. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe it was just the old building settling, or perhaps Mrs. Peterson was having trouble with her door again. But then he heard it clearly, the soft click of his door opening, followed by footsteps on his wooden floor. Someone was inside his apartment. Jake's mind raced through possibilities. Was it a break-in? Should he call the police? Should he grab something to defend himself? But then he heard something even more confusing. The sound of someone setting down what seemed like bags or luggage. Slowly, Jake crept toward his living room, his heart pounding so loud he was sure whoever was in his apartment could hear it. He peered around the corner and saw something that made absolutely no sense. A young woman stood in his living room completely at ease. She had brown hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she was wearing scrubs, the kind nurses wear at hospitals. She looked tired, really tired, like someone who had been working for way too many hours. But what shocked Jake the most was how comfortable she seemed. She wasn't looking around like someone who had broken into the wrong place. She wasn't nervous or confused. She was acting like she belonged there. "Oh, hey," she said when she noticed, Jake watching her as casually as if they had been roommates for years. Her voice was friendly but exhausted. "Sorry I'm so late getting back. The hospital was absolutely crazy today. 2 emergency surgeries back to back, and then we had this situation in the ICU that kept me there for an extra 4 hours." Jake opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He just stood there staring, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The woman continued talking while she unzipped a small duffel bag she had placed on his coffee table. "I am so ready to get out of these scrubs and take a hot shower. I feel like I haven't sat down in about 15 hours. She pulled out some toiletries and what looked like pajamas. Jake finally found his voice. Excuse me, but who are you exactly?" She looked up at him with a slightly puzzled expression, as if his question didn't make sense. "What do you mean? I'm Lisa." She said it like that should explain everything. "Lisa," Jake repeated slowly. "And you're in my apartment because—" Now Lisa looked genuinely confused. She stood up straighter and looked around the room, really looking at it for the first time since she had walked in. Her eyes moved over Jake's furniture, his artwork on the walls, his books scattered on the side table. "Your apartment?" she asked. "This is apartment 4B, right, on Maple Street?" "Yes, but it's my apartment. I've been living here for 3 years." Lisa set down the toiletries she had been holding and stared at Jake. "That's impossible. I've been living here for 2 years. Well, until 6 months ago when I had to leave for my traveling nurse assignment. But this is definitely my place. I have a key." She held up a key that looked exactly like Jake's. Jake felt like he was in some kind of weird dream. "You have a key to my apartment?" "It's not your apartment," Lisa said, but her voice had lost some of its confidence. "I mean, it can't be. My boyfriend lives here." We've been living here together for 2 years. He's probably just out getting groceries or something. The pieces started clicking together in Jake's mind, but it still seemed impossible. What's your boyfriend's name? Robert, Lisa said. Robert Chen. Tall guy, works in sales, drives a blue Honda. Jake had never heard of anyone named Robert Chen, and he definitely didn't drive a blue Honda. His car was a red Toyota that he had bought used 5 years ago. Listen, Jake said gently. I don't know who Robert is, but he doesn't live here. I moved into this apartment 3 years ago from the previous tenant. The landlord said the guy before me had left suddenly and owed rent. Lisa's face went pale. She sat down heavily on Jake's couch, or what she thought was her couch. That's not possible. Robert wouldn't just leave. We had plans. I was only supposed to be gone for 6 months. I've been texting him, but he said his phone was broken and he'd get a new one soon. Jake started to understand what had happened, and he felt genuinely sorry for Lisa. Someone had clearly left her in a really difficult situation. When was the last time you actually spoke to him? Not texted, but actually talked, Lisa thought, for a moment. About 3 months ago, but he explained that work was keeping him super busy, and with my crazy schedule at different hospitals, it was hard to coordinate calls. Jake sat down in the chair across from her. Lisa, I think Robert moved out and didn't tell you. I've been living here for 3 years. I have the lease agreement, utility bills, everything in my name. Lisa stared at him for a long moment, and Jake could see the reality of the situation slowly sinking in. Her shoulders sagged, and she looked around the room again, this time really, seeing that it was different from how she had left it. But I don't understand, she said quietly. Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff was here. My furniture, my clothes, everything. I don't even know anyone in this city anymore except... She trailed off, realizing that the one person she thought she knew was apparently gone. Jake looked at this exhausted woman who had walked into what she thought was her home, and his heart went out to her. It was almost midnight. She clearly had nowhere else to go, and she looked like she was about to fall over from exhaustion. Look, Jake said. This is obviously a really complicated situation, and you're clearly exhausted. Why don't we figure this out in the morning when we can think more clearly? You can take the couch tonight. Lisa looked up at him with surprise and gratitude. You would do that? You don't even know me. I just walked into your apartment and basically claimed I lived here. Jake shrugged. You didn't break in. You had a key and you genuinely thought this was your home. Besides, it's late and you look like you're about to collapse. We'll call the landlord tomorrow and get this sorted out. For the first time since she had walked in, Lisa smiled. Thank you. That's really kind of you. I promise I'm not crazy or dangerous or anything. I'm just really, really confused right now. I believe you, Jake said. Let me get you some blankets and a pillow. As Jake went to his closet to find extra bedding, he couldn't help but wonder how tomorrow would go. This was definitely not how he had planned to spend his evening, but somehow he didn't mind as much as he thought he would. There was something about Lisa that seemed genuine and kind, even in this bizarre situation. Maybe tomorrow they would figure out what had really happened with Robert, and maybe Lisa would find a new place to stay. But tonight, at least, she had somewhere safe to sleep. Jake woke up to the smell of coffee brewing in his kitchen. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. He never made coffee first thing in the morning. He was more of a grab, something on the way to work kind of person. But then the events of last night came flooding back to him. Lisa, the key, the confusion about Robert. He sat up in bed and listened carefully. He could hear someone moving around quietly in his kitchen, trying not to make too much noise. Jake glanced at his clock. It was 7 in the morning. He usually didn't get up until 8, but the smell of that coffee was actually pretty appealing. Jake threw on a t-shirt and walked out to find Lisa standing by his coffee maker, looking much more rested than she had the night before. She had changed out of her scrubs into jeans and a simple blue sweater. Her hair was down now and she looked younger somehow, less exhausted. I hope you don't mind, she said when she saw him. I found coffee in your cabinet and figured you might want some. It's the least I can do after you let me crash on your couch. That's actually really nice, Jake said, surprised. I don't usually make coffee at home. Lisa poured 2 cups and handed him one. Really? You have this nice coffee maker just sitting there? Jake laughed. It was a gift from my mom last Christmas. She keeps hoping I'll become more domestic. He took a sip of the coffee. It was really good. Much better than the stuff he usually grabbed from the shop downstairs. They stood there for a moment, both holding their coffee cups, the morning sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. It felt strangely normal, like they had been doing this routine for years instead of having just met under the most bizarre circumstances. So, Lisa said, I was thinking we should probably call the landlord this morning. I need to figure out what happened to all my stuff, and you deserve to know how I ended up with a key to your apartment. Jake nodded. Yeah, that makes sense. Mr. Williams is usually pretty good about returning calls. Mr. Williams? Lisa looked confused. The landlord is Mrs. Johnson. Older lady always wears those big flower print dresses. No, the landlord is definitely Mr. Williams. Middle-aged guy, drives a pickup truck. They stared at each other for a moment, realizing this mystery was getting more complicated by the minute. Okay, this is getting weird, Jake said. Let me get my lease agreement. Maybe there's been some kind of mix-up with the property management company. Jake went to his bedroom and returned with a folder full of important documents. He pulled out his lease and showed it to Lisa. See? Jake Morrison, apartment 4B, landlord William Williams. Lisa looked at the document carefully, then pulled out her phone. Let me show you something. She scrolled through her photos until she found what she was looking for. This is a picture I took of my lease when I first moved in. Jake looked at the photo on her phone. It clearly showed a lease agreement for Lisa Chen. That explained why she knew Robert's last name so well. For the same apartment, 4B on Maple Street. But the landlord's name was different. This doesn't make sense, Jake said. How can we both have leases for the same apartment with different landlords? Unless... Lisa paused, thinking. What if the building changed ownership? What if Mrs. Johnson sold it to Mr. Williams? Jake felt like pieces of a puzzle were starting to come together. That would explain a lot. If Robert left suddenly and owed rent and then the building was sold, maybe the new landlord didn't know about you. Lisa sat down at Jake's small kitchen table, looking defeated. So Robert just left. He left me and all my stuff and didn't tell anyone where I was or that I was coming back. Jake sat down across from her. He could see how hurt she was, and it made him angry at this Robert person he had never met. I'm sorry, Lisa, that's really awful. The worst part is I should have seen it coming, Lisa said quietly. The last few months before I left, he was different, more distant, always on his phone, always having to work late. I thought it was just stress from his job. You couldn't have known he would just disappear like that. Lisa managed a small smile. Thanks for saying that. I keep thinking I was stupid for trusting him. You weren't stupid. You were in love and you trusted someone you thought cared about you. That's not stupid. That's normal. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, drinking their coffee. Jake found himself studying Lisa's face, noticing things he had been too shocked to see the night before. She had kind eyes, the sort that seemed to really pay attention when someone was talking. And there was something about the way she moved that spoke of someone used to taking care of others, probably from her work as a nurse. Can I ask you something? Jake said. Sure. What's it like being a traveling nurse? It sounds like a really hard job. Lisa's face brightened a little. It is hard, but I love it. Every few months I go to a different hospital where they really need help. Sometimes it's because they're short-staffed. Sometimes it's because there's been some kind of emergency. I get to help people and see new places at the same time. That sounds amazing and really important. It is. Although it doesn't leave much room for a normal personal life, as I'm clearly finding out. She gestured around the apartment. Jake felt bad for bringing up what was obviously a painful subject. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you think about all this again. No, it's okay. I need to think about it. I need to figure out what I'm going to do next. Well, the first step is probably calling the landlord, whichever one we can actually reach. Lisa laughed, and Jake was glad to see her smile again. Right, the mystery of the two landlords. Jake got his phone and dialed the number he had for Mr. Williams. It went straight to voicemail, so he left a message explaining the situation as best he could without sounding completely crazy. "Your turn," he said to Lisa. Lisa dialed her number for Mrs. Johnson. This time someone answered. "Mrs. Johnson? Hi, this is Lisa Chen. Yes, from apartment 4B. No, I just got back yesterday." She paused, listening. Her face went through several expressions: surprise, confusion, and then understanding. "I see," she said finally. "Yes, that explains a lot. No, I understand. Okay, thank you." She hung up and looked at Jake. "Well, mystery solved. Mrs. Johnson sold the building to Mr. Williams about 4 months ago. She said she tried to contact all the tenants about the ownership change, but when she couldn't reach Robert, she assumed he had already moved out." "What? About your stuff?" "Robert told her he was moving everything out himself. She gave him boxes and everything." Lisa's voice was flat. "So he took all my things when he left?" Jake felt terrible for her. "Lisa, I'm so sorry." "It's okay." "Well, it's not okay, but it's not your fault." She took a deep breath. "Mrs. Johnson said she still has my contact information if anything turns up, and she confirmed that my lease ended when Robert broke his lease early." "So what happens now?" Lisa looked around the apartment, Jake's apartment, and sighed. "Now, I figure out where to go and what to do next. I have enough money saved up to get a new place, but I need time to look. And I need to buy all new furniture and clothes and everything." Jake surprised himself with what he said next. "You know, you could stay here for a few days while you look for a place. I mean, if you want to. The couch isn't that uncomfortable, and it might give you time to figure things out without rushing." Lisa looked at him with genuine surprise. "You would let me do that? Why?" Jake thought about it. "Because you seem like a good person who got dealt a really unfair hand, and because—" He paused, not sure how to explain it. "Because I've been living alone for 3 years, and yesterday was the first time this place actually felt like a home instead of just where I sleep." Lisa smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me in a long time." 3 days had passed since Lisa had walked into Jake's life, and somehow they had settled into a routine that felt surprisingly natural. Lisa had taken Jake up on his offer to stay while she looked for a new place, and what had started as a temporary arrangement was turning into something neither of them had expected. Jake discovered that having Lisa around was nothing like he had imagined living with someone would be. She was considerate in ways that made him realize how lonely he had been without even knowing it. She made coffee in the mornings but never woke him up. She did her own dishes and somehow always seemed to clean a few of his too. When she watched TV in the evening, she kept the volume low and always asked if he minded what she was watching. On Thursday morning, Jake found Lisa sitting at his kitchen table with her laptop open, scrolling through apartment listings online. She had a notebook next to her where she was writing down addresses and phone numbers. "Any luck?" Jake asked, pouring himself a cup of the coffee she had made. "A few possibilities," Lisa said, but she didn't sound very excited about any of them. "There's a studio apartment about 20 minutes from here that's in my budget, and there's a 1-bedroom that I could afford if I pick up some extra shifts." Jake sat down across from her and looked at her laptop screen. The studio apartment looked tiny and depressing. The 1-bedroom was in a part of town he knew wasn't very safe, especially for someone who would be coming home alone at night after working late hospital shifts. "What about this one?" Jake pointed to a listing he thought looked better. "That's way out of my price range," Lisa said. "Nurse salaries are decent, but not that decent." Jake had been thinking about something for the past few days, but he hadn't been sure how to bring it up. Looking at these disappointing apartment options gave him the courage to finally say it. "Lisa, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What if you didn't move out?" Lisa looked up from her laptop. "What do you mean?" Jake felt nervous, but he pushed ahead. "I mean, what if you stayed here as my roommate? We could split the rent and utilities. You'd have your own space, and it would help me out financially, too." Lisa stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Yeah, I think I am. I know it sounds crazy, we barely know each other, but these past few days have been really nice. You're easy to live with, and honestly, this place feels more like a home when you're here. Lisa closed her laptop and looked around the apartment. Jake, that's incredibly generous, but are you sure? You've lived alone for 3 years. Having a roommate is a big change. I know it is. But maybe change isn't always a bad thing. Jake realized as he said it that he really meant it. Besides, you're already here and it's working out fine. What about when you want to have friends over? Or date someone? Jake laughed. What friends? What dating? I work, I come home, I watch Netflix and I go to bed. That's been my entire social life for months. That sounds pretty lonely. It was. I just didn't want to admit it. Lisa was quiet for a moment thinking. What would the arrangement be exactly? We split rent down the middle. We each buy our own food, but we can share cooking duties if we want. We respect each other's space and privacy, and we both have the right to change our minds if it's not working out. You've really thought about this? Jake nodded. I have, and I think it could work. We're both adults, we're both responsible, and we seem to get along well. Lisa smiled. You know what? I think you're right. Yes. Let's try it. Jake felt a wave of relief and excitement. Really? Really. But I insist on paying half of everything. Rent, utilities, internet, all of it. And I want to contribute to making this place feel like home for both of us. They shook hands across the kitchen table, both grinning. So what do we do first? Lisa asked. Well, I guess we need to figure out sleeping arrangements. The couch is okay for a few days, but if you're staying long-term, you need a real bed. Lisa looked toward Jake's bedroom. Is there enough space in there for 2 beds? Jake had already measured. Actually, yeah. If we get rid of my desk and move it to the living room, there's enough space for another twin bed. Perfect. We can go shopping this weekend. There's something else, Jake said. If we're going to be roommates, we should probably get to know each other better. I mean, I know you're a traveling nurse and you make great coffee, but that's about it. Lisa laughed. You're right. What do you want to know? Everything. Where are you from? Do you have family? What do you do when you're not working? What's your biggest fear? What makes you happy? That's a lot of questions. Lisa got up and refilled her coffee cup. Okay, let's see. I'm from Oregon originally. My parents still live there, and I have a younger brother who's a teacher. When I'm not working, I like to read and cook and explore new places. My biggest fear is probably ending up alone with nothing to show for my life. And what makes me happy? She thought about it. Helping people get better, making a real difference in someone's life, and apparently having really good conversations over coffee in the morning. Jake smiled. Your turn to ask me questions. All right. What made you want to be a graphic designer? I've always loved art, but I'm not good enough to be a real artist. Graphic design lets me be creative and still pay my bills. Plus, I like solving visual problems, figuring out how to make something look good and communicate clearly at the same time. Do you like your job? Most of the time. It can be stressful, and some clients are difficult. But overall, yeah, I get to work on interesting projects. What about family? My parents live about 2 hours away. They're both retired teachers. They keep asking when I'm going to settle down and give them grandchildren. Jake rolled his eyes. I have a sister who lives in California with her husband and 2 kids. We don't talk as much as we should. And what makes you happy? Jake thought about it. Creating something that didn't exist before, whether it's a design or a piece of art. Really good food, quiet Sunday mornings, and lately, he paused, having someone to talk to who actually listens. They spent the next hour talking about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their failures and successes. Jake learned that Lisa had wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford medical school, so she became a nurse instead and never regretted it. Lisa learned that Jake had almost gotten married 5 years ago, but realized at the last minute that he and his ex-girlfriend wanted completely different lives. Can I tell you something? Lisa said, as they were finishing their second cups of coffee. Of course. When I walked in here that first night, I was so devastated about Robert and losing my home, but now I'm starting to think maybe it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Why? Because Robert and I were never really right for each other. I just didn't want to admit it, and I never would have met you if he hadn't left. Jake felt warmth spread through his chest. I'm glad you walked through that door. Even though I scared you half to death? Even though you scared me half to death. They both laughed, and Jake realized that for the first time in years, he was genuinely excited about the future. He had no idea what would happen between him and Lisa, whether they would just be roommates, or if this feeling he was developing might turn into something more. But for now, it was enough to know that he wouldn't be coming home to an empty apartment anymore. So, Lisa said, should we go furniture shopping? Let's do it, Jake said. But first we need to set some ground rules about what kind of decorating style we both like. Oh no, Lisa said with a grin. Are you one of those people who has opinions? About throw pillows? Maybe, Lisa laughed. This is going to be interesting. 2 weeks into their roommate arrangement, Jake and Lisa had found their rhythm. Lisa worked 3 night shifts a week at the local hospital, which meant Jake often came home to find dinner waiting for him, along with a note about her day. QR, her nights off. They had started cooking together, something neither of them had expected to enjoy as much as they did. It was a Friday evening when everything changed between them. Jake had been working on a particularly frustrating project all week, a client who kept changing their mind about what they wanted, and he was exhausted. He came home to find Lisa sitting on their couch, still in her scrubs, crying quietly. Jake dropped his laptop bag immediately. Lisa, what's wrong? She looked up at him with red, puffy eyes. Sorry, I didn't hear you come in. I was just... She wiped her face with the back of her hand. It was a really hard night at work. Jake sat down next to her, close enough to offer comfort, but not so close that it felt awkward. Do you want to talk about it? Lisa took a shaky breath. We lost someone, tonight. A little girl, only 7 years old. She came in after a car accident and we did everything we could, but she couldn't finish the sentence. Jake felt his heart break for her. He had never seen Lisa cry before, and it made him realize how strong she usually was, how much she carried on her shoulders every day. I'm so sorry, Lisa. The worst part was her parents. They kept asking if she was going to be okay, and I had to keep saying we were doing everything we could, but I could see in her eyes that she wasn't going to make it. Lisa's voice broke again. I've been a nurse for 5 years, and I still don't know how to handle losing someone so young. Jake didn't know what to say. He had never had to deal with life and death situations in his work. The most stressful thing he faced was a missed deadline or a difficult client. How do you do it? How do you go back tomorrow night and do it all over again? Because for every patient we lose, there are 10 we save. Because someone has to be there when people need help the most. Because... She paused, looking at Jake. Because I can't imagine doing anything else even when it hurts this much. Without really thinking about it, Jake reached over and put his arm around Lisa's shoulders. She leaned into him, and they sat there quietly for a few minutes. Jake could smell her shampoo and feel the warmth of her body against his side. It felt natural and right in a way that surprised him. Thank you, Lisa said quietly. For what? For listening. For not trying to fix it or tell me it's going to be okay. Just for being here. Jake realized that this was the first time in years that someone had needed him for something important. Not for a work project or a favor, but for actual emotional support. It felt good to be needed. Are you hungry? Jake asked. I could order some food. Lisa sat up and looked at him. Actually, would you mind if we just stayed like this for a while? I don't really want to think about anything else right now. Of course. They sat together on the couch, Lisa curled up against Jake's side, both of them quiet. Jake found himself paying attention to little things. The way Lisa's breathing gradually became more relaxed. How her hair felt soft against his cheek, the way she fit perfectly next to him. After about an hour, Lisa spoke up. Jake? Yeah? Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why haven't you dated anyone since I've been here? I mean, you're a good guy, you're attractive, you have your life together. I would have expected you to bring someone home by now. Jake thought about how to answer that. Honestly, I haven't met anyone I wanted to bring home. and lately I've been pretty happy with how things are here." Lisa lifted her head to look at him. "What do you mean?" Jake felt his heart start beating, faster. This felt like one of those moments where you either say what you're really thinking or you play it safe and maybe regret it later. "I mean that coming home to you feels better than any date I've been on in the last 3 years." Lisa stared at him for a moment, and Jake couldn't tell what she was thinking. Had he said too much? Had he made things weird between them? "Jake," Lisa said slowly, "are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I don't know." "What do you think I'm saying?" "I think you're saying that you have feelings for me." Jake took a deep breath. "Yeah, I think I am saying that. I know it's complicated because we're roommates and I don't want to make things awkward if you don't feel the same way, but—" Lisa put her finger against his lips to stop him from talking. "Jake." "Yeah? I have feelings for you too." Jake felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. "Really?" "Really. I have for about a week now, maybe longer. I kept telling myself it was just gratitude because you helped me when I had nowhere to go, but it's more than that." "What is it then?" Lisa smiled, and it was the first real smile Jake had seen from her all evening. "It's the way you make me laugh when I'm having a bad day. It's how you always ask about my work and actually listen to the answer. It's the way you make me feel safe and comfortable and like I can be myself completely." Jake leaned closer to her. "Lisa? Yeah? Can I kiss you?" Instead of answering, Lisa closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was soft and tentative, like they were both testing the waters. But when Lisa kissed him back, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time, like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. When they broke apart, they were both smiling. "So what happens now?" Lisa asked. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "This wasn't exactly covered in the roommate agreement we made." Lisa laughed. "No, it definitely wasn't. Are you okay with things being complicated?" "I think I can handle complicated. The question is, are you sure about this? I mean, if this doesn't work out, it could make living together really awkward." Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking. "You know what? I'm tired of playing it safe. I'm tired of protecting myself from getting hurt. Robert hurt me by leaving, but you know what hurt worse? Realizing that I never really loved him the way I thought I did. I never felt about him the way I feel about you. How do you feel about me? Like I want to take a chance. Like maybe this scary, unexpected thing could turn into something really beautiful." Jake kissed her again, longer this time. When they separated, he rested his forehead against hers. "I can't promise I won't mess this up," he said. "I can't promise that either, but I can promise to try my best not to. That's all anyone can promise." They spent the rest of the evening talking about what this meant for them, setting new boundaries and expectations. They decided to take things slow, to keep communicating about everything, and to remember that their friendship was the foundation of whatever this might become. As Lisa finally headed to bed that night, she stopped at Jake's bedroom door. "Jake." "Yeah?" "Thank you for today, for letting me cry and holding me and just being you. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me see you when you were hurting." Lisa smiled. "Good night, Jake." "Good night, Lisa." As Jake lay in bed that night, he couldn't stop smiling. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in years, he was excited to find out. 6 months had passed since that first night when Lisa had walked through Jake's door with a key and changed everything. Now, on a Saturday morning in early spring, Jake woke up to find Lisa already in the kitchen, making pancakes and humming, quietly to herself. "Good morning," Jake said, wrapping his arms around her from behind as she stood at the stove. "Good morning," Lisa said, leaning back against him. "I thought we could have a nice breakfast together before we meet with your parents." Jake's stomach did a little flip. Today was the day he was introducing Lisa to his parents, who were driving up from their town 2 hours away. They had been dating for 4 months now, and Jake knew it was time for his parents to meet the woman who had become such an important part of his life. "Are you nervous?" Jake asked. "A little," Lisa admitted, flipping a pancake. "What if they don't like me?" "They're going to love you," Jake said confidently. My mom has already decided she likes you just from our phone conversations. She keeps asking when you're going to visit them. And your dad? Dad's going to appreciate that you have a real job that helps people. Plus, you can talk to him about medical stuff. He's always fascinated by that since he spent 30 years teaching high school biology. Lisa turned in Jake's arms to face him. Are you sure about this? Meeting parents is a pretty big step. Jake had been thinking about this question a lot lately. In 4 months of dating, he and Lisa hadn't had a single major fight. They had disagreements, of course. Lisa thought Jake left dishes in the sink too long, and Jake thought Lisa watched too many medical dramas on TV. But they had learned to talk through everything. Living together had actually made their relationship stronger because they couldn't avoid each other when things got difficult. I'm sure, Jake said. I love you, Lisa. It wasn't the first time he had said it, but every time still felt important. Lisa smiled and kissed him softly. I love you too. 2 hours later, Jake's parents arrived. His mom, Carol, was a small, energetic woman who immediately pulled Lisa into a hug as if they had known each other for years. His dad, Tom, was quieter but warmed up quickly when Lisa started asking him about his garden. Jake tells me you're a traveling nurse, Carol said as they all sat down to eat. That must be so rewarding but also very difficult. It can be challenging, Lisa agreed, but I love being able to help hospitals when they need extra staff, and I've gotten to see parts of the country I never would have visited otherwise. Are you planning to keep traveling? Tom asked. Lisa glanced at Jake before answering. Actually, I've been thinking about settling down somewhere permanently. The traveling has been great for my career, but I'm ready to put down roots somewhere. Jake felt his heart speed up. They had talked about this privately, but Lisa had never said it so definitively before. And where are you thinking of putting down those roots? Carol asked with a knowing smile. Well, Lisa said, reaching for Jake's hand, I've gotten pretty attached to this city, and to your son. Carol beamed. I was hoping you'd say that. The rest of the visit went perfectly. Jake's parents clearly adored Lisa, and she seemed genuinely comfortable with them. After lunch, while Lisa and Tom were discussing the difference between emergency room procedures and general ward care, Carol pulled Jake aside. I like her, she said simply. Good, because I'm pretty crazy about her. I can tell you look happier than I've seen you in years. I am happier. She makes everything better. Carol smiled. Your father and I were just talking about how different. You seem more confident, more settled. Lisa's good for you. She is. Mom, I think she might be the one. I think you might be right. That evening after his parents had left, Jake and Lisa were cleaning up the kitchen together. So that went well, Lisa said. They love you. My mom asked me when we're going to get married. Lisa laughed. What did you tell her? I told her to be patient. Jake paused, suddenly serious. Lisa, when you said you were thinking about settling down permanently, did you mean here, with me? Lisa stopped washing dishes and turned to look at him. Jake, in 6 months you've given me a home, a relationship that makes me happier than I ever thought possible, and a reason to want to stay in one place. So yes, I mean here. With you. Even though I leave dishes in the sink. Even though you leave dishes in the sink. Jake moved closer to her. What if I told you I've been looking at bigger apartments, places where we could each have our own space but still be together? I'd say that sounds perfect. What if I told you I applied for a permanent position at the hospital here? Jake's eyes widened. Really? Really? I had the interview yesterday, while you were at work. They offered me the job. Jake picked Lisa up and spun her around the kitchen, both of them laughing. So we're really doing this? Jake asked when he set her down. We're really doing this. 3 months later, Jake and Lisa moved into a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment across town. It had a big kitchen where they could cook together, a living room with space for both of their furniture, and even a small balcony where Lisa could grow herbs. On their first morning in the new place, Jake woke up to find Lisa sitting on their balcony with her coffee looking out over the city. Good morning, he said, sitting down next to her. Good morning, I was just thinking. About what? About how weird life is. 9 months ago, I thought I was going home to Robert. I had my whole life planned out, and none of it included you. Are you sorry things changed? Lisa took his hand. Not for a single second. Jake, you know that night I walked into your apartment thinking it was mine? Kind of hard to forget. I think I was supposed to walk through that door. I think everything that happened, Robert leaving, the confusion with the landlords, all of it, was supposed to happen so I could find you. Jake squeezed her hand. You know what I think? What? I think we found each other. Lisa smiled and leaned over to kiss him. I think you're right. As they sat together on their balcony watching their city wake up, Jake reflected on how much his life had changed. 9 months ago, he had been living alone, working alone, and feeling like something was missing but not knowing what it was. Now he woke up every day next to someone who made him laugh, who challenged him to be better, and who had turned his apartment into a real home. Lisa? Yeah? I'm glad you had a key. Lisa laughed. I'm glad you let me stay. I'm glad we took a chance on each other. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee and planning their day. Jake had a client meeting in the afternoon, and Lisa was starting her first week at her new permanent position at the hospital. It was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one they were writing together. Later that evening, as they were making dinner in their new kitchen, Lisa looked around at their home, their art on the walls, their books on the shelves, their photos scattered around, and smiled. You know what? She said. What? This feels right. All of it. Us, this place, this life we're building together. Jake put down the vegetables he was chopping and pulled Lisa close to him. It does feel right, he agreed. It feels like home. It feels like exactly where we're supposed to be. And as they stood there in their kitchen, holding each other and thinking about their future, both Jake and Lisa knew that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes love walks through your door with the wrong key, but at exactly the right time.